When it comes to moving to Palm Beach, there are certain things you need to know. If you cannot handle these things, you should avoid moving to Palm Beach, Florida. My name is Ray Fernandez. I'm with Living in Palm Beach, Florida, powered by eXp Realty. Welcome. If this is your first time to our channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button there over in the corner. While you're at it, ring that bell. What that'll do is notify you each time we put out a new video. We put out new videos every single week. So you're thinking about moving to Florida, this is a channel for you. 17 years ago, my family and I relocated to this beautiful part of the world we call sunny South Florida, and we haven't looked back. Today, we help people perhaps like you do the exact same thing. So if you're thinking about moving to Florida and you have questions and you want answers from people who have actually done it before, there's a few ways to get a hold of us here at Living in Palm Beach, Florida. Down below is our email address. That's one great way. Also on this screen, you see our phone number. You can either call or text that number. Two of the best ways are in the description and the comments section. There's a link. Click on that link. What that'll do is that'll help connect us either through a phone call or through a Zoom, whatever way you feel most comfortable. In any case, we have your back when it comes to relocating to here in Florida. So if you're thinking about moving here to Florida, and to particular Palm Beach, there's a few things you need to know. This is a very different area. There is no place in the world like this place we call Palm Beach, Florida. So one of the first things you need to know of why you need to avoid moving to Palm Beach is the people. So one of the things that's unique about Palm Beach and in Florida as a whole is we have a lot of transient people. For some reason, maybe it will be less in the years to come, as we have had a lot of people move to this state, into this area here in South Florida over the past few years. But in general, it is a very transient area. So one of the things that you see a lot of are snowbirds. The weather here is so nice. Look at this. Look how beautiful it here is on a morning here in the spring, summertime. You really cannot beat it. So we get people here from all over the country, all over the world for that matter, that come here, and let's face it, they can be a little bit entitled. It's just sort of a unique place. One of the things you should know is a lot of people who do move down here, especially on the East Coast and here in Palm Beach, on the East Coast Southeast Florida, is they come from places such as the Northeast. There are other factors when it comes to it, but one of the things you need to be aware of when it comes to moving, and maybe whether you want to avoid moving to Florida, is the people. The population here in Palm Beach will literally grow 3 times. I mean, I'm not kidding. We have other areas in Palm Beach, Florida, such as Wellington, that when they have the polo season in the summer, in the winter time, Wellington is the winter equestrian capital of the world. But here in Palm Beach, the population here is about 9,000 people, and in the season, which is basically the mid-October to about the end of April, the population goes from 9,000 to 27,000, so it practically triples. That's one of the factors where you need to know whether you want to live or avoid moving to Florida. One of the other reasons you need to consider if you're thinking about moving here to Palm Beach is the traffic. Related to the people is the traffic. We get those snowbirds I was telling you about. It can get crowded here. So the other thing is the driving here is absolutely insane. I'm originally from New York, and I used to drive through Manhattan. I've driven through the Long Island Expressway, the Major D, and all those crazy roads. But nothing is worse than the driving and the traffic here in sunny South Florida. Well, you have a few factors that make up for that. So again, you have the snowbirds, that they're here only in the season, so they might not necessarily know the roads all that well. We do get a lot of retirees. Now, in recent years, Florida's been less about retirees. There are a lot of families, younger families, moving here over the years, but it's still sort of known to a certain degree of retirees. So you will get people that are a little bit older, maybe shouldn't be on the road. Maybe I'm one of them, don't know. But in any case, the driving here is crazy because a lot of people don't know the roads. And there's no like transportation system like you see in, like, let's say in New York or Washington, D.C. There's no subways, there's no nothing. It is just insane. If you're driving from Palm Beach into Miami, especially on a high time, like let's say rush hour, they have these like these express lanes, and they will charge you a lot of money for doing that. And it's because they know that people will pay anything to get through that traffic, and then driving is insane when it comes to driving in Palm Beach, Florida. So here's another factor when it comes to living here in Palm Beach, and if you cannot get used to this, you should avoid moving to Florida. Things are slow here. I remember when I moved, when I lived in New York and came down here and came on a vacation to Fort Lauderdale, and I was just like dumbfounded just how slow it can be. In New York, we have a fast pace. In a lot of places around the country, whether you live in Chicago, Ohio, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Virginia, which you see a lot of those people moving down here now, things move fast there. And for me, if I'm always moving. When I'm going through Publix and whatnot, I'm just trying to figure out the most efficient way to get through it. Well, here life sort of slows down. And if you can't handle life slowing down a little bit, you should avoid moving to Florida. You need patience. So one of the things, if your life is just a little bit slower here, it's maybe not as bad as it once was, because we get more and more people. There are like 1,000. Here we are in 2023. There are like 1,000 people moving here a day. So the state is sort of changing a little bit. We've seen living in Palm Beach, Florida, we've seen an enormous amount of traffic, people moving down here since the pandemic. We see a lot of people moving here who have remote jobs now. If you look at the people that we are helping move down here, those are the people that we're helping most often move down here. And also, just to go off the topic a little bit, we are seeing most of those people are moving into new construction. We help a lot of people we are a new home co-broker. So if you actually want to know what houses are, the prices of houses, this is a nice house. This is like a $10-15 million house. So this is not typical here in Palm Beach. The average price of a home in Palm Beach County is $585,000. So not everything is ultra expensive, but a lot of people we see that are moving here are buying the new constructions. If you want access to like a new construction only website, reach out to our team. Our email is below. We'd love to help you. So if you can't slow down, then you should not even consider, and you should avoid moving to Florida. The other factor that's related to all this and the home prices on homes and so forth are the prices and the cost of living. A few years back, I'm going back about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I did a study on the cost of living between here in Palm Beach and the cost of living in New York. I took a suburban area of New York, because as you know, Manhattan is very expensive too. So that's not a typical area in New York. But at the time, we have found that about the cost of living here in Florida was about 22% less. Now, a big factor of that is the prices of homes. That is the biggest component when it comes to calculating the cost of living. And I would venture to say, I've not run the numbers exactly, but that gap of 22% in recent years has closed. I'm thinking considerably. Prices around in this part of in Palm Beach have gone up. Every real estate since 2020, let's face it, around the whole country has gone up, but they have gone up more here in Palm Beach, Florida, than literally anywhere else in the world. So if you can't handle rising prices of homes and the cost of living increasing, at least in the immediate future, then you should avoid moving to Palm Beach. You should avoid moving to Florida. The other thing, related to all these points, if you can't handle this, you need to avoid moving to Palm Beach. This is not like New York. This is not like Philadelphia. This is different. It is not really a red state. It's not a blue state. It's just it's a mix of a state, and the culture is different. When we had people coming in, and we do like our business is relocations. That's what we do. We help people relocate to this area, and when we had people relocating to this area, going back into 2020 and 2021, they were all masked up from New York, and they were shocked how we here in Florida did not quote unquote follow their rules. That's just the way it is here. It is different. It is a little bit more relaxed. There are less regulations compared to what you find in the Northeast. Businesses didn't shut down in the manner in which they did in New York. Probably one of the reasons Florida handled things a little bit better. The other thing, I'll go a step further. You have gun owners here in Florida. You can like I have a concealed carry license, right? So you to get that in New York is nearly impossible. So it is a different state. It is not a red state like you will find in parts of, let's say, Oklahoma and Texas and so forth. But there is a culture here, and the people are different. And if you can't handle that, you should avoid moving to Palm Beach. You should avoid moving to Florida. I want to give you guys a factor. When people do move down here, one of the things that they're most surprised about, one of the things that they're truly shocked, is that it goes along the cost of living factor, is that the real estate taxes. When we moved down here from New York, we were a little bit surprised how high the real estate taxes are. You got to figure this. In Florida, you got to pay for stuff. Like you see all these coconut trees back here. Someone's got to pay for them, right? Someone's got to maintain them and so forth. And the way that Florida pays for a lot of its things is through sales tax, of course, but also the main source of income is through real estate taxes. So if you move down here from somewhere in the Northeast, whether it's Massachusetts or New York, your taxes will be lower, most likely, but they're probably not going to be as low as you think. People used to move down here and think, oh, my real estate taxes are going to be $4.92. It's not. It will be lower, most likely, but in essence, it will not probably be as low as you think. And that's some of the feedback we get from people that are moving down here, the people we help move down here. One of the things that they find and get a handle on, they can be a little bit surprised about the cost of real estate taxes. So if you want to learn more about, reach out to our team, because we want to know whether you should avoid moving to Palm Beach and to Florida. Let me give you a pro on that whole matter. One of the good things about the whole the fiscal situation here in Florida is we do not have state tax. So that's sort of a big deal. So if you are a big earner, and you might pay that higher real estate tax. If you are a big earner and you pay like a 10% income tax like we did in New York. When I lived in New York, I was a former Wall Street trader. We lived in Manhattan. When I came back at the end of the day and my paycheck through our bonuses and all that, I was taking home less than 50% of my money, which is insane. So one of the good things when it comes to living here and moving to Palm Beach and to Florida is that there's no state tax, which can be like giving yourself a raise like right off the bat. So one of the reasons you should avoid moving to Palm Beach, one of the reasons you should avoid moving to Florida is we have crazy, crazy wildlife here. This area is so unique when it comes to wildlife. In Palm Beach, we get things. I mean, we get like things that you don't see in other places. There are, not that they walk around the beach and you'll see them all over the place, but we get things like bobcats. We get things like coyotes. If you go into the middle of nowhere, Florida, going towards the Everglades, where not as many people live, yes, there will be jaguars out there. In more recent years, in the Everglades, they've had some invasive species in there that have come in there. Pythons, which are those big snakes that will. That are actually competing with the alligators to decide who is the strongest. So those are just some of the things. When it comes to Florida, if you can't handle this crazy wildlife, you need to avoid moving to Palm Beach. One of the things that people are always asking me when moving here to Palm Beach is this particular wildlife aspect is, are there alligators? The answer is yes. We do have alligators. I will say this, I lived here 17 years, and I could probably count on one hand how many times I've really seen an alligator up close. They're just not running around. You won't see them running on this beach and so forth. It's just not like that. In fact, I'll go a step further. They, generally speaking, want to avoid people. The only time when there's a problem is that if you live in a community where you have homes around the lake and so forth, and you'll see the alligators not so afraid of you and stuff. It's mainly because they're probably getting fed. Someone's feeding them. Because in general, alligators want no part of you. I will say this. If you have a small dog, What you don't want that dog just roaming the side of the bank of the pond or the lake, because they will go after that. That's what they do. What the alligators do is they go after small animals, whether it's dogs, raccoons, or things like that, and they will grab them, drag them in the water, and eat them, which is one of the things. But having alligators are not exactly all over the place. You do need to be conscious of them. But that's one of the things. If you can't handle living next door to an alligator, you should avoid moving to Palm Beach. Continuing on with these this crazy wildlife we have. If you're a dog owner, you need to be conscious of this. They have these frogs, these toads, these bofu frogs that are poisonous. And I say poisonous from the standpoint that if a dog were to go after them, or even a cat, I guess, were to go after them and lick their skin, it's poison. And there are people that there are instances where that's a case. So if you're thinking about, if you have a dog and you're moving to this part of Florida, you need to be very careful about it. Reach out to our team. I'll tell you one of the things that we see people do is a lot of the areas have a lot of people have fences around there. So one way to avoid this alligator issue, one way to avoid these bofu frog issues is you have a fence. And on the bottom, what a lot of people do is they put this extra fence so that the toads, the frogs don't get in. So that's one of the ways. If you want to avoid this kind of wildlife or avoid Florida, that's some of the things that you could do to help if you want to move here to Palm Beach. Of course, we get some really weird stuff here too that you don't get in a lot of places. So we will get iguanas. Iguanas, they can be a nuisance if you get them. If they go into a community, they multiply pretty fast, and so you have to be a little bit conscious. If you're moving into a community, you want to look around, look in the backyard. You don't want this manifestation of iguanas. The other thing that's funny about them, so we do get some cold weather here from time to time. More on that in a minute. And what will happen in the wintertime when it gets to be a certain degree, once in a blue moon, we'll get at about freezing. They will literally freeze. These iguanas will freeze in the trees, and they will just freeze and they will drop. So when we have these alerts, these weather alerts in the wintertime, they call it the falling iguana alert. So if you don't want an iguana falling on your head, you should avoid moving to Palm Beach and avoid moving to Florida. Last but not least, but I'll get off the wildlife thing in a second, but as the sun comes up here on Palm Beach, we get it. The water here is really nice. So that's one of the things. That's one of the pros. One of the pros when it comes to moving to Palm Beach is the water's the warmth of the water. The temperature of the water is generally speaking pretty warm. If you live in California or something to that effect, the Pacific Ocean, it's freezing. Here the waters are warmer. So you can go swimming. People do come out here in January and in February and go swimming, and they're able to. The water's not crazy cold like it might be in other parts of the country. Forget about up in the Northeast. The waters here are a little bit warm. So one of the factors with that is that we do get an above average amount of sharks here. So between here and let's say the Bahamas and down in that part of the Caribbean is probably the largest concentration of sharks. If you down this way, you've got the beaches guarded. And I've had one of my previous videos on Lake Worth. You'll see the lifeguard will be staring out and telling people to come in because they spot sharks. So if they spot sharks, they will tell you to come in. So if you're on the beach and you're with kids especially, and you want to play it safe, not just from the swimming standpoint, but from a wildlife standpoint, they have also a Portuguese man-o-war. The best thing to do is to go swimming in one of the guarded areas here in Palm Beach, Florida. One of the funniest things I see about Florida is that we get all these lizards too. There's one that it's a nickname. It's called a Jesus lizard. It looks like a mini raptor from Jurassic Park. The thing I had one stuck in my office for about 2 weeks. Couldn't get rid of the little guy. It was actually pretty big. It was about a foot long. Anyways, it will literally stand on its back feet and walk. And that's why they call it a Jesus lizard, because it'll walk on water, and that's where it gets known. So anyways, if you can't handle crazy wildlife, then you should avoid moving to here in Palm Beach, Florida. All right, here's some of the big factors that you might want to consider. If you're thinking about moving here, you need to know about this. All related to the weather. So out this way, you know, in like the end of the summer and in the fall, like in September is the highlight, we get hurricanes. So because of that, you know, I think Floridians are generally speaking pretty good at preparing for hurricanes. I don't think that's really a problem. I've been here 17 years. I've shuttered up my home more than probably about half a dozen times. Where when I say shuttered up, that means put hurricane shutters up. The houses down here on Palm Beach Island, they will literally, because it's such a seasonal place here in Palm Beach Island, those people will literally shutter their home up like around April, and they'll just walk away. And you're allowed to do that here on Palm Beach Island. Many places in Palm Beach you're not allowed to, but in any case, we do get the threat of hurricanes. And if having a hurricane or bad weather like that, if that's a problem for you, you should avoid moving to Palm Beach. The other thing when it comes to the weather is the humidity. We get the weather here is rather, whoa, here we go. The weather here is rather humid. Let me say this. If you live in New York and you live in Massachusetts, Boston, and all those other places, trust me, it's just as humid there in the summertime. It's not any more humid here, but we have a much longer season here, a much longer summer here. We start earlier, and in September, when you guys are cooling down in many places in the United States, here in Florida, it's like summertime throughout the month of September. The other thing you've got to learn to handle, if you can't handle a lot of rain in the afternoon, you need to avoid moving to Palm Beach, because it will rain here every day around this time now. When we get the rainy season, you can expect around 2 or 3 o'clock. I mean, it's beautiful now. The mornings almost always start like this, but around 2 or 3 o'clock, what'll happen is the humidity like kicks in these sea breezes and all this. We will get some really, really nasty. We had one last night. Or yesterday afternoon. We will get some nasty weather here. That's why we get this really bad rainy season. We do get a lot of sun. We are known as the Sunshine State. We do get above average amount of days of sunlight and sunshine. But when it comes to rain, if you can't handle a lot of rain in the afternoon, you should avoid moving to Palm Beach, Florida. The other factor that's related to that in recent years has become a real big problem, especially, is the cost of insurance. If you buy a home, you need to buy, especially if you're financing, you have to. You need to buy home insurance. Home insurance here is expensive. I mean, it's more expensive here than any place else I know of in the United States, and especially if you own or buy an older home. Our family's insurance literally doubled this past year because there's been all kinds of regulatory problems with it, and it comes down to what the age of your roof is. One of the ways to avoid having these problems with the insurance company is, and that's what people are doing. And living in Palm Beach, Florida, as I mentioned, we do relocations, and one of the biggest thing that we help people do are buying new homes, because when it comes to buying a home here in South Florida, one of the ways to avoid this insurance issue is to buy a new home. There are several master plan communities here in this area of Florida. We help them, and your insurance, your homeowner's insurance, will literally be anywhere between a third or maybe even a quarter of what it would be if you buy an older home here in Florida. So if you want to avoid paying those higher insurance rates, you need to either avoid moving to Florida or reach out to our team. We'll tell you about what these what it looks like in that whole new construction process. Like as I mentioned before, we've got a great a website to search that. So reach out to our team or avoid moving to Palm Beach, Florida. Listen, there are many beautiful things about moving here in Florida. I mean, how nice is it? Whoa! How nice is it to wake up and to see this, to have this view in the morning. I come down here every so often, and pretty often actually, recently especially, and to watch the sunrise. There's nothing more beautiful than the sunrise. There is, here in Palm Beach, we are so close to so many things. If you want to take like these day trips or these shorter vacations, there is not a better place. 2.5 hours north of here is Orlando, Florida. About 4 hours to the south of us, all the way at the end is one of my favorite and most beautiful places, Key West. There's Marco Island on the west coast. There's Naples over there. It truly is one of the most beautiful places. So we at Living in Palm Beach, Florida, we've actually, if you're thinking about checking out this area and you want to make an exploratory view, we have actually created something we call hotspots. So if you want to know, like if you're down here and you're not really ready to buy, you're on your preliminary visit, and you want some guidance as to where to look to get a sense if this is a good area for you, reach out to our team. We have hotspots for areas such as Jupiter, Florida, West Palm Beach, Florida, Wellington, Florida, Delray Beach, Florida. This will give you good guidance as to where you should look to decide if moving to Palm Beach is for you. There's a lot of good when it comes to moving to Palm Beach. There's a lot of good when it comes to moving to South Florida, but it's really not for everyone. So the only way that you're going to know whether Palm Beach is right for you is to come down and check it out and to decide whether Palm Beach for you or you should avoid moving to Palm Beach, Florida. Palm Beach, paradise here in South Florida.